One last question for you, and this is also a topic that we've discussed. Recently, WikiLeaks posted thousands of secret war documents on their website, WikiLeaks, as what they were calling a public service, shedding light on information that we didn't know about the war. Of course, our government said that that put civilians and certain military personnel, it compromised their security. Now, the founder of WikiLeaks has said that he and the Pentagon are looking forward to working together regarding the second round of releasing those documents. Do you think that that is a step in the right direction?
I think the only step in the right direction is to take hold of the individuals that released those documents to begin with and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. This working together in the face of national security and putting soldiers' lives in danger is not negotiable. You don't sit down and talk about it. You do something about it to make sure it never happens again. And for me to listen to someone with a bunch of malarkey that they're going to sit down and negotiate with the Pentagon when to release classified information.
But it's not necessarily the when. It's that the Pentagon could say, you can't release this because it's compromising this person X's security.
I don't believe that that's ever going to happen, because somewhere along the line they're going to do it anyway. It's not for them to determine, or WikiLeaks does not have the decision nor the accountability for human lives in the form of U.S. soldiers and national security of the country. You don't do that. In my book, you don't sit down with anyone that wants to compromise our security and find ways that they can release it anyway. These are classified documents. They're for the purpose of protecting the national security of the United States and American soldiers. If you compromise that, you're as guilty as the Taliban for doing it to begin with.
Okay. Well, we certainly will have much more to discuss when they do become
We sure
public.
will, and I'm hopeful that someone will understand that you're dealing with people that don't have any responsibility for the national security of this country.
Okay. General, thanks so much for your insight again. We appreciate your time.
Good to be here.
Thanks for watching, too. Please weigh in.
2008 edition of Eyewitness News at 10.
The polls have closed, the ballots are being counted, and very soon we could know the next president of the United States.
Right now we're scrolling the results, the latest results at the bottom of your TV screen. That's coming up. Now the results are also constantly being updated at foxprovidence.com.
And let's get
two important ballot questions.
The first, an $80 million transportation bond that state officials call vital to repairing Ocean State roads. You can see that it has 76% approval rating, 24% who rejected it.
The second ballot.
From Eyewitness News, this is breaking news in campaign 2008. Barack Obama has won Rhode Island.
CBS and the Associated Press.
We sure do out here. And Mike, you mentioned it earlier as breaking news. We have Senate President Joseph Montalbano, the projected loser in this race. Otherwise, though, it's been a good night for incumbents, and he's been in there for 20 years. What happened?
Well, it's been a very good night for Democrat incumbents, Max. Senator Montalbano is the only incumbent Democrat losing on the state Senate. I don't think it was a matter of his power. It was an ethics issue. We're seeing in Rhode Island that when candidates have ethic issues, they seem to get voted out of office. We've seen that with Stephen Alves. We're seeing that with another person tonight. Bruce Long in Middletown and Jamestown is trailing by 500 votes at this point with one precinct left. So it's not a night where they were throwing the incumbents out, just the opposite. It looks like it was an ethics issue that hurt Senator Montalbano, nothing else.
Speaking of the incumbents, Teresa Paiva, do you think that she'll make a bid for the Senate presidency
now?
Well,
obviously, we're going to have to see. She's the majority leader. It would naturally, you would assume that she would go for the Senate president. We're going to have to see over the next couple of weeks if she can put the coalition together to take over the Senate and become the Senate president, or does the Senate get into a basically Donnybrook and have a fight for the presidency, which could really bog down the Senate in the 2009 session when we have a lot of very difficult budget situations to deal with.
Okay, and one last question on a national level then. This is really an historic campaign. How does it stack up with all that you've covered?
I've been doing this for years, and this is really amazing.
Female Attorney General.
Karen, Mike, it's just been a great night. Arlene and I were talking about watching McCain's concession speech. Such an interesting night. What are you taking away from this historic campaign?
Well, first of all, Mr. McCain, had he had that wonderful concession speech and the manner in which he delivered that, if that McCain had showed up for the debates, we might have had a different outcome. But certainly, this is such an incredible night. I'm a graduate of the 40 years ago civil rights movement, and this is just a wonderful time in the United States of America to see a black president. Fantastic.
Great. And then locally, what are you taking away? Biggest surprise of the night?
Our biggest, of course, is the demise of Joe Montalbano.
And how do you see the governor working now with the General Assembly? Any new people? I mean, how is this going to affect the deficit and where we go from here?
Well, the governor has a lot cut ahead for him. I think the Republicans even lost some seats in this past election, so it definitely is going to be lopsided. Really take note of what happened here tonight.
Interesting night. Yeah, this one's going down in the books.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thanks,
for sure.
Arlene. Back to you guys.
With Eyewitness News reporter Erin Kennedy one more time.
She's in the Campaign 2008 Update Center with our political analyst, Joe Fleming. Erin?
Karen, Mike, you just put up the full screen there a bit ago. Surprise of the night, Joseph Montalbano losing here. What do you think happened? Does the economy factor into it? Is it just ethics?
Well, with Senator Montalbano, I really believe it's ethics. We saw him go down tonight. We saw Bruce Long go down. Both of these people have had ethics problems in Rhode Island. We saw Senator Al.
And we mentioned it earlier that registered voters in Rhode Island, 85%. Do you think that we had hopefully somewhere near that for voter turnout?
I don't know if we hit 85%, but I think our turnout was very high today. So the voters really were enthusiastic to go out there today. I don't think we hit 85%, but I'm sure we hit a decent number today.
Can't wait to get those numbers back and check it out.
Oh, I got to look at them.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Joe. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you, Erin. And to recap our top.
First at 5:30, our top local story, a stabbing behind a popular pizza parlor.
Now, police say the whole thing was a setup, and now the suspect is behind bars.
The Pinpoint News Tracker takes you to the scene, Mineral Spring Avenue in North Providence. That's where Eyewitness News reporter Alex DePrado is now live with the Northwest Mobile Newsroom. New at 5:30, Cranston police are asking for the public's help to track down one of Rhode Island's most wanted. Take a close look. Investigators say this man stole liquor from Fred's Drugs on Oaklawn Avenue twice in 2 weeks. He's also wanted for questioning in a cigarette larceny at the CVS on Pontiac Avenue. If you have any information, please call police. From the West Bay Mobile Newsroom, Eyewitness News is staying in Cranston, where fire broke out inside a home on Garden City Drive this afternoon. Firefighters were able to contain the flames to one room. The chief says the fire started in a shop vacuum. No one was home when it started. Gas prices stayed the same this week. AAA of Southern New England says the average cost of a gallon of unleaded is still $1.96. The price had climbed for 7 straight weeks before leveling off last week. It is still 2 cents more than the national average.
Was a big day. William Smith.
A Massachusetts convenience store owner wrestles a shotgun away from a robber. Surveillance cameras captured the struggle. The Brockton store owner says he grabbed the thief and pulled the weapon away after the suspect pointed the gun at his nephew. The robber got away with about $200, but police have his gun, and now they're reviewing that surveillance video. Boston police will be increasing patrols at this year's St. Patrick's Day in Southie. 200 more patrolmen will be added to the force of 400. Bars are also being ordered to close at 7 p.m., liquor stores at 5. Last year, about 500,000 showed up for the parade, 200,000 more than usual. Time now for a look at tomorrow's headlines. Here's Tim Murphy in the newsroom of the Providence Journal.
Governor.
A man fights off an unusual burglar inside his home. A kangaroo smashed through his bedroom window in Australia. The kangaroo hopped from room to room, knocking over furniture as the homeowner and his wife hid beneath the sheets. But when the kangaroo hopped into their son's room, the homeowner sprang into action, wrestling the animal into a headlock. The kangaroo got away, though, disappeared into a nearby forest.
Time now for Eyewitness News. Call 12 for action.
A gift certificate company goes bankrupt. Now, a number of Rhode Island companies and thousands of consumers are left holding the bag.
Problem solver Susan Hogan joins us now with the details.
Now, a Target 12 investigators exclusive. We are combing contracts for local teachers, digging deep to see how your tax dollars are being spent.
Now, chances are you pay more than a 1% copay for your health insurance. That is, unless you're a teacher in one Rhode Island town.
The state says health insurance for public education workers costs taxpayers $225 million a year. To shave that price tag, the governor wants teachers to pay a 25% co-share across the board. But the Target 12 investigators find that every Rhode Island community falls short of that goal.
Target 12 Technology.
Up in flames, Eyewitness News is learning new details about a tragic fire this weekend in Pawtucket. Firefighters rushed into a burning building on Meadow Street to try and save Anthony Silva, and now what they're saying they found inside is disturbing. Eyewitness News reporter Danielle North joins us now with the exclusive story. First at 5:30, our top local story. Police are on the lookout for an armed robber who was caught on camera holding up a Pawtucket convenience store.
This gas station is no stranger to crime. Last night's robbery was its fourth. Pinpoint News Tracker takes you to the scene on East Avenue.
Eyewitness News reporter Nathan Wosu spoke to the clerk who's seen his fair share of crime. She joins us now with the details. New details on the breaking news we brought you last night at 11. An Acela train hits and kills a woman on the tracks in Warwick. None of the people on board the train were hurt in the crash, and now police are issuing a description of the victim in hopes of identifying her. Investigators say she is white, in her 30s or 40s, with brown hair. She has a yellow sun with a smiley face tattooed on the inside of her right ankle. A local soldier receives a national honor in Washington, D.C. Staff Sergeant Matthew Lavoie of West Greenwich was presented with the Angel of the Battlefield Award today. The 27-year-old says he treated hundreds of soldiers and civilians during his year-long tour in Iraq that ended in 2006. He was even wounded himself when he took shrapnel in the leg. A Yale University student is suing an airline for losing his Xbox. Jesse Mainman says the video game console was taken from his luggage. Now he's asking for $1 million in damages. A U.S. Airways spokeswoman says the airline limits liability for lost luggage to $3,300 a bag.
Coming up on Eyewitness
News at 10.
Police raid a local deli, and only Eyewitness News is there as the investigation unfolds. Plus, a Target 12 exclusive, we reveal an MRI die warning after a frightening disease begins cropping up across the country and right here in Rhode Island. But first, at 10, 4 homicides in Providence in just over 1 week. 11 total so far this year. It's putting neighbors and police on edge. And tonight we have breaking news. Police have just made an arrest in connection with the latest homicide in last night's deadly shooting. Let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Danielle North, who is live with the mobile newsroom and the breaking details. And a third offense, violators will have to pay $1,000. Tonight, a Target 12 investigators exclusive, revealing an MRI die warning. We've learned a frightening disease is cropping up across the country. It's a rare reaction that happens to certain patients injected with a dye that's used in routine MRIs. We've learned that at least 12 people here in Rhode Island have been diagnosed, and now a massive lawsuit aimed at several pharmaceutical companies claims the manufacturers poisoned some patients. Target 12 investigator Tim White is here now with the
Eyewitness News.
Eyewitness News is covering the economy tonight with good news and bad news. Wall Street had a strong start to the week. The Dow gained more than 185 points today, and both the NASDAQ and S&P 500 were also up by more than 2% each. However, the annual federal deficit is now more than $1 trillion for the first time ever, and there are still 3 months to go in the fiscal year. The Treasury Department blames the growing deficit on stimulus payments, war spending, and a sharp decline in tax revenues. We'll have more coverage on the economy in just a few minutes with details on how the economy is forcing the mayor of Providence to request raising property taxes. Now, breaking news on the king of pop, Michael Jackson. And the investigation into his death. An LA coroner says toxicology reports could be completed this week that would determine the cause of Jackson's death. Some of the results are in on tests of what Jackson had in his body. Authorities are investigating claims that the pop star consumed large amounts of prescription medications, including a powerful sedative. Eyewitness News with the latest now on the flu scare. We have learned a Massachusetts teen has died from the H1N1 virus. The 13-year-old Worcester boy did have persistent health problems before catching the virus. He is the first Massachusetts youth to die from H1N1. Across the country, the virus has killed more than 200 people. In Massachusetts, 6 people have died, and 2 Rhode Islanders have also died from the swine flu. New on Fox, the city of Cranston will soon have a new police chief. The mobile newsroom at Cranston City Hall today, where Mayor Alan Fung formally nominated Marco Palumbo Jr. Palumbo will take over as acting chief tomorrow and still needs to be confirmed by the city council. Palumbo is taking over from Stephen McGrath, who left 2 weeks after a vote of no confidence from the police union.
There are no question there will be labor issues to work through, and I'm committed to doing that. And we still have to police the city, and that's what we intend on doing.
Palumbo is a Cranston native. He graduated from Cranston East High School and worked more than 15 years without ever taking a sick day. 2 suspects are behind bars tonight, and 2 more are still on the run after a shooting last night left 1 man in the hospital and left Fall River Police with several unanswered questions. Eyewitness News reporter Danielle North is live at the Fall River Police Department and joins us now with more on our top local story. A local business made some noise on Wall Street this afternoon. Officials from West Warwick-based Drive It Systems helped ring the closing bell on the New York Stock Exchange. Company CEO and North Kingstown. More details on a story we first brought you on Eyewitness News at noon. One of Rhode Island's most notorious killers is accused of stabbing a prison guard. Craig Price was convicted of killing 4 of his neighbors back in the late 1980s when he was just a teenager. And now he's been transferred out of his Florida prison for allegedly stabbing a correctional officer with a homemade weapon. It happened while guards were trying to break up a fight between Price and another inmate yesterday. The injured guard was stabbed in the finger and cut to the bone. We will have much more on this developing story coming up on Eyewitness News at 6. Major developments tonight in the shocking murder of a pregnant Massachusetts woman whose baby was taken from her womb. Tonight, a suspect is behind bars, and the new first at 5:30 cash is now set aside to study the ever-growing traffic woes on Aquidneck Island. Between congestion and several serious, even deadly accidents, officials say something needs to be done. It is our top local story. Eyewitness News reporter Catherine Sotnick is live with the details on how the study can help lead to improvements.
Well, Erin, we all know.
From the Providence Mobile Newsroom, Eyewitness News taking you to the scene of a fire in East Providence. Fire sparked inside this commercial building on Ferris Avenue just before 1 this afternoon. Crews rushed to the scene and were able to knock the fire down quickly. Officials on scene tell Eyewitness News they believe the fire started in a cooling unit. From the Providence Mobile Newsroom, Eyewitness News in the capital city with the latest developments on a stabbing we first told you about last night on Eyewitness News at 10 and 11. Police say 35-year-old Philip Bird was stabbed in the neck and armed at a boarding house in the Charles neighborhood. Despite his injuries, he was able to drive himself to his home on Greeley Street. Bird told police he doesn't know how the stabbing happened. An update now on an election day snafu. The fight over the Smithfield Town Council election has finally ended. 4 voters who filed lawsuits challenging the results of that election have agreed to drop the suit. The Board of Elections provided ballots that included the name of a candidate who had dropped out of the race. The error was corrected and the ballots were replaced, but not before 575 voters had used the incorrect ballots. New at 5:30, Taunton police arrest a man on drug and illegal weapons charges. 28-year-old Robert White was arrested after a raid at his High Street apartment yesterday. Inside, police say they found a gun and several bags of cocaine with an estimated street value of $10,000. Police say White is, quote, a career offender. Eyewitness News is covering the economy. Cash-strapped Fall River is working on a plan to save jobs and add new ones within the city's school department. The city has set aside the $5.1 million it received as part of the federal stimulus package. At a city council meeting this week, officials discussed a plan to save jobs that would have been lost as the school department works to cut $3.5 million from its budget. Want to get away, but you just can't afford it right now? Well, there may be some hope. On Wpri.com, we have some helpful information on affordable vacations in a tough economy. You can find it on our business page under Saving You Money. Plus, speaking of a vacation, you can sail away on the Block Island Ferry for free. Find out how you can win a family pack of 4 same-day tickets. Just check out the contest section on our homepage. And while you're there, don't forget to download our new iPhone app. Coming up on Eyewitness News, live at 5:30, a man admits to stabbing his infant daughter, and the reason behind the crime will shock. We are General by Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. President Obama addressing said in that speech he wants to find out how this happened. A military base, 40,000 troops, armed soldiers. How does something like this happen?
I think we really need to understand the motive, perhaps, as we get into the how it actually happened. But apparently there was a compromise of security. But if they were in uniform and part of the overall scene, it's very hard to distinguish when something's going down until it actually happens. So I think we need to really wait until the actual investigation takes place to determine how it did happen.
Fort Hood is home to the Wounded Warrior Program, which helps soldiers who are dealing with PTSD. Do you think that there's any connection?
It could be. It appears that whoever did this was deranged to begin with, and to some extent had psychological problems. But if it was a matter of post-syndrome, stress syndrome, then I think we need to understand that this kind of thing happens. But the Army is doing as much as they possibly can to identify it and treat it before we get situations like this.
After the shooting, Fort Hood was put on lockdown. Other bases were increasing their security. What were we doing locally?
Locally, I did talk to the Rhode Island National Guard. They are sustaining their height of security. They're becoming more aware, obviously, and just watching and monitoring to make sure this isn't part of a larger scheme across the nation.
And we know this is still very much developing, but is there any way that this could have been prevented?
I think, based upon what I'm seeing right now, probably not. These things, unfortunately, are going to happen, and you don't really recognize exactly what happened until it actually happened. I think we can look at it in the future and perhaps have some additional consequences as it relates to security before we allow things like this to unfold.
All right. Thanks, General, so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Good to be here.
All right, thank you, General Centracchio. Stay with Eyewitness News. Good evening, I'm Mike Montecalvo.
And I'm Erin Kennedy. In just a few moments, Governor Don Carcieri will give his final State of the State address.
Early next year, Governor Carcieri will end his 8 years as leader of Rhode Island. Tonight, the governor will touch on several key issues, including the ongoing job crisis. He'll also talk about supporting small businesses and the future of Rhode Island. I'm going to give you a live look right now as state, city, and town leaders are waiting for the governor to take the podium. Tonight's speech is highly anticipated and comes with support and opposition. The governor will outline proposals for helping small businesses, but initiatives that he announced during previous State of the State speeches have died for lack of support in the Rhode Island General Assembly.
Last year, the governor called for phasing out the state's 9% corporate income tax and replacing it with a cheaper alternative. He said the proposal would draw investors and jobs to Rhode Island, but lawmakers ignored the plan. Part of tonight's speech will focus on his plans for closing an estimated $400 million budget shortfall for the fiscal year starting in July.
Another thing the governor will talk about, how many unemployed Rhode Islanders are out there. At this point, 73,000 Rhode Islanders are without jobs. And he's going to mention that Rhode Island is similar to other states across the country, that jobs will be the #1 focus as he tries to balance the budget.
Mike, just like you mentioned, we actually just got the most updated unemployment numbers for the state. For the month of December, we are now at 12.9%, which is an increase from the month of November. So he is, of course, going to focus on job creation, which we know a lot of small businesses are really looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Not everyone's going to be in the governor's corner. A contingency of municipal officials are in the House chambers. You're having a live look here at Frank Caprio, who would like to be the next governor of the state of Rhode Island, the Rhode Island General Treasurer right now. There's Patrick Lynch, the Attorney General, who'll also be running in the Democratic primary against Caprio. But a number of mayors will be in the chambers, including Joe Policina from Johnston, Alan Fung from Cranston, Dan McKee from Cumberland, and David Cicilline in Providence, protesting the governor's budget cuts.
Exactly, and we do have reporters in the State House right now who are going to be listening to Governor Carcieri's speech, and we are planning on talking with all of those mayors to hear what they have to say, because as we can well assume, Governor Carcieri is going to be proposing that the municipalities work harder to rein in their spending when we've heard continually that they feel that the governor is asking too much of them. They already feel like they've given up enough. And as you can see, Lieutenant Governor Elizabeth Roberts now walking in to hear the governor's speech, State of the State.
And Lieutenant Governor Roberts is running for re-election. And what they've been doing is the state leaders have been coming in one by one, and now they're waiting for Governor Carcieri to come into the House chambers. This will be historic for the governor, his final State of the State. A former bank executive who became governor now will deliver his final message in House chambers as we await Governor Carcieri's arrival.
And you had mentioned it earlier, Mike, about Mayor Avedisian is in there right now, and we were actually just speaking with him last night about consolidating local resources for municipalities. things like sharing fire, police, and school resources, which Governor Kucheri is a proponent of. He thinks that that will help balance the budget, which, as we mentioned, stands right now at coming in $400 million deficit. So, of course, we're anxious to hear what he has to say to the mayors, and again, to hear what they have to say in protest.
And the mayors of Johnston and North Providence have already started consolidating services. We'll see how far the governor goes, and you can see him entering the House chambers right now with his wife, Sue Kucheri, who's with him a lot of the times and a lot of the events that he goes to. So we're anxiously awaiting to hear how the governor plans to add jobs, raise revenue for the state, cut unemployment. It's a lot on the governor's plate for his final year in office.
And I think we should just add real quickly that we will have continuing live in-depth coverage tonight on Eyewitness News at 10 and 11. Again, we are going to be speaking with local mayors to hear what they have to say. And we do have Eyewitness News political analyst Joe Fleming in the studio right now with us, watching his State of the State to give you his insights.
And as you can see, Governor Kucheri now walking
Witness News at 10. Coverage you can count on.
Historic floods. Eyewitness News begins with the latest developments tonight.
Not long ago, the Associated Press revealed that the Secretary of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, will travel here to Rhode Island on Friday to assess the damage caused by the worst flooding we've seen in more than 100 years.
Meanwhile, a live look in Coventry where mandatory evacuations were ordered earlier today over fears that the Laurel Avenue Bridge would collapse. Part of the bridge has already been washed away along with a portion of the nearby mill. A live report is just moments away.
Also, Eyewitness News has a first-hand look at the devastation caused by the flooding from the sky. Tonight, we fly over some of the hardest hit areas, and one of those hard hit areas is Washington County, including Westerly, which saw many roads washed away, homes and businesses flooded as rivers swell up.
On Route 95 in Warwick, crews were busy trying to move the water off the road, and tonight Rhode Island's congressional delegation is commending the emergency response effort.
All the emergency response folks have done a really exemplary job through this, many of them up way too many hours on very little sleep, but they're still out there and they're working very hard.
Rhode Island now stands to receive more help from the federal government after President Barack Obama issued an emergency declaration for the entire state.
And even though the rain is over, local rivers are expected to remain well above flood stage for several days. Eyewitness News has live pinpoint weather team coverage for you tonight.
Chief Meteorologist Tony Petracca joins us with the latest on flood conditions. Stephen Schuler joins us live with a look at travel conditions.
But first we go to Catherine Sopnick live in Coventry with the latest on evacuations caused by a local bridge buckling under the weight of the floodwaters.
Erin in Eyewitness News.
Now the latest on the historic flooding throughout the state. For the first time, we are getting an up-close look at the extensive damage in South County. Yards, roads, even entire buildings remain submerged right now from Hopkinton to Westerly. Residents tell us this is the worst it has ever been.
I've been around here all my life, and I really never seen it this high.
It doesn't matter how long you've lived here. In all likelihood, you've never seen flooding like this, and you may never see scenes like this ever again. Check out this house almost entirely submerged in the Pawcatuck River. And even though the family there is getting around by canoe, their neighbor says they're in pretty good spirits.
They're having fun out there. They say they got everything going good. They got their internet, their phone working.
But in Hopkinton, it's hard to keep a positive attitude when you're looking at scenes like this on Chase Hill Road. Broken and buckled blacktop.
The roads are out, roads are buckled. It's flooding everywhere. It's just completely flooded. It takes you forever to get anywhere because you think you're going somewhere, you got to turn around because the roads are out.
It's just a mess around here. You can't get around. The roads you take for granted are all blocked off.
Getting around is difficult enough. Sometimes it's easier on foot, and sometimes using your car isn't an option. This truck in Hopkinton parked outside a waterlogged house. And this sign for the Bradford fishing area seems almost literal. But with warmer days on the way, people are just hoping that scenes and sounds like this will dry up. And help is on the way for those who don't have power in South County. National Grid is bringing a mobile station to try and restore power to the 3,200 customers who lost power after their substation got flooded.
We've been taking donations now for about 90 minutes. Erin?
Mike, as you know, a recovery is a very long effort, but it begins tonight with you, people who are at home who are able to call in and donate. The numbers are there on your screen, 401-854-3636. You can also call 1-800-639-0036. Also on our website, Wpri.com. No donation is too small, and every penny that you donate will go toward helping your neighbors, making sure that they get back on their feet. And somebody who's very busy, who's joining me tonight, is Peter Carty. You've had a very busy day already, but I know you thought it was important to be here tonight.
Very important to be here tonight, Nick. We want to help them out as much as we can.
Peter Carty, thank you very much for your time tonight. And as he said, these are for the people who they might